Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the second day of May 2024. Welcome to our show today. So glad you decided to join us. Today we've got both Ralph and Karen on just to start out, and then we're going to go to John Ferguson, who owns, let me pull up his website here to make sure that I say it correctly. Saxon, let's see, wrong tab. You know how it is, you start out the day and you gotta wake up a little bit, and honestly, I didn't have enough coffee this morning, so we're working on that. Saxon Unmanned, which is a drone company, and he's also got a new coffee company that he's doing. But he's really interesting because he spent quite a bit of time in the service, and he understands a lot of world issues that are going on right now, including some things that are going on in Sudan. And then we'll also have on a Senate candidate, Reagan Box, from, I think she's from Georgia. And then after that, Paul Venable from the Constitution Party, which I love Paul. Paul's cool. And he's, I consider him a good friend. And he's the area director for the Constitution Party for the Midwest. He's also been the Constitution Party chair for Missouri. Oh, here comes Karen back on. Karen disappeared on me. And so it should be a fun show today. So good morning, guys. How you guys doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I've heard Paul speak numerous times, and he is just a wealth of knowledge.
Well, I got to tell you what happened at the Constitution Party. So I made up my mind that the one goal that I had for our national convention was to get Paul Venable to run for president. And I bugged him for 3 days. I'm like, hey, Paul, I'm nominating you. You gotta, are you going to accept? Because I'm going to nominate you. And finally, he came like a half hour before the paperwork had to be in for nominations. He is like, yep, I'll accept the nomination. And then we talked about why, and that's what we're going to talk about at 10:30 is why did Paul finally accept the nomination after 3 days of Donna Brandenburg pestering him to run for president. He's just an amazing man, and he can quote the Constitution. He knows proper procedures. He's written lots and lots of letters for us to redress grievances, and I mean, the guy's inspiring. So anyhow, that was kind of funny. Finally, he said yes, and I was like, booyah, accomplished the goal.
Yeah, he very much knows his history.
Yeah, interesting. We have to have better people that step up to the plate, and I can honestly tell everybody that we've got some wonderful candidates. I'm kind of excited about. Now, I don't agree with with everything that anyone says that comes out of their mouth, whether they run or whatever. You kind of listen to it, and this is Donna sitting there listening to what people say, going, all the time, and trying to find the things that I disagree with just as much as I am the things that I like what they say. I'm questioning everything all the time, but. And you never agree with anyone 100% of the time. And I think that that's a real important perspective to have in our relationships with people. We got to give people the leeway to be an individual the way God created them, instead of just being somebody that we approve and stamp the approval on everybody and never question what they say. No, it doesn't work that way. So we do need to be asking questions. But I love Paul. Paul's a good guy, and his wife is just wonderful. They have a Down syndrome son who's just absolutely a joy to be around. And so good people, though, just salt of the earth type of people.
Yeah, he'd be a great presidential candidate.
Oh, he'd be outstanding. And, I'm an unapologetic Trump supporter. I'm going to tell you that's my thing, is that I support President Trump, because anybody that's been gone after as hard as they have President Trump, there's a reason why they want to get rid of him. And that reason is that they've got to maintain control. And he's not a guy that's going to back away from things too easily. And his policies, I really liked his policies as far as coming at it from a business person's perspective. He understands how to run the nation and make it financially equitable for everyone, how to put things into proper perspective. And I just want to say that the rightful president of the United States is President Donald J. Trump. And let me go to my little, there you go. where he should be. His rightful place should be on Mount Rushmore, and right there, the greatest, let's see, this side, the greatest president in the history of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, and the rightful president of the United States, who had the election stolen from him by the global crime syndicate, the enemy within the United States also. So anyhow, what are we talking about today, guys?
Well, at the moment, this might entertain you. I just caught my third chicken. I have to mute myself because you'll hear them cackling. Well, today is their first day being penned in on the property.
Yeah.
We moved the coop and we got the fence, but they figured out I knew they would do this. They figured out some way of getting out, some of them. And they really, really wanted a nest box that they're used to. You can hear how angry they are right now.
All those farm things. I decided I'm going to get a couple cows. I need a couple of cows. So I've been looking into that besides my sheep obsession of needing some sheep so that we have wool and alpacas. So now I'm the next thing is on cows. I think I need to get a couple little micro jerseys. Did you know that those things are only like 36 inches to 41 inches tall, which means they're not going to eat as much hay as the ones that have been bred for size. So I found a farm that sells them, and screw you to all of the government organizations that say that you've got to have every animal tested going across state lines. This is nonsense for bird flu, and they've never had a case of it. This is like telling everybody to wear masks. It's like, okay, we really need to get smarter about this and end all of these organizations that just are based on the power grab that's going on.
Yeah, interstate commerce clause is all powerful, except when it's inconvenient.
Yeah, then they like trash it, and that's exactly what they're doing. So anyhow, I found a place in Michigan that actually sells micro jerseys. So Donna Brandenburg is going to be taking a trip up north and checking them out.
Take me with you.
That'd be great. You're kind of a smallish person. It might.
We looked into those. My husband did before we got the goats.
Oh, really?
When we got more goats.
And then, you got rid of all your goats, which was really fun. I missed your goat pictures and the goats playing. So why did you decide on goats over the micro cows?
Probably. Well, for one, me. Because I didn't want any larger livestock, but I really didn't want goats. I always told him, no goats. We can have chickens, no goats. And it lasted for a long time because I knew that they have a bad reputation for getting out.
Goats are a pain unless you got poison ivy in the woods you want them to eat, right?
Well, there are things that if you're prepared for them, you're fine. They stretch fences.
Okay.
Because they constantly rub. They will go almost sideways, rubbing on the bottom of the fence. They love to get their back and their sides rubbed. So if you just have like a regular sheep fence, which is what we had, sheep and goat fence, they will stretch out every place. And there's certain places that if they're common to it, they will stretch it even more there. Chain link, we had them in a pen in the wintertime, and they stretched the chain link a little bit. So that was a biggie. They weren't much at escaping because they're so small, number one. So we didn't really have that problem. But the one I babysitted for, she lived in our area. I drove over there one time when I pet sat for her. She went to Arizona in the wintertime, and it had snowed. And that goat would climb up on the snow and hop right over the fence. I'd show up and it'd hop back in.
And on your car and on your hood and on your roof of your car and on the roof of your buildings if they can. They're cute, but
luckily she had a dog kennel that she used to keep the goat in at times. So my husband came over and we cleared out the stuff that was in there as like storage. so it could be contained and covered and taken care of and wouldn't escape the yard. But yeah, so I don't know. Cows are just not, they were just a little more work than we were ready for sure.
Well, having a bunch of horses, that's kind of a bunch of horses here. You end up having a lot of work anyway. So, and a couple of cows. What's that? I actually have a mare that's going to get bred this week. So that's going to be really interesting because we're doing artificial insemination and then a donor mare for her because she almost died when she had the last baby, and the baby died before it could make it out. Horses have to deliver within about 15-20 minutes. Once the process starts, it's quick. And if they can't accomplish it in that amount of time, the baby dies. So, I got to pet the baby while he's still alive, but it's called a dystocia pregnancy is what she had. The baby got stuck, and it took us 2 hours to get that baby out of her. And I remember at the last minute, it was like 10 minutes before we finally got the baby, she looked up at me and her pupils were just huge and black. And it was like she was saying goodbye. And I'm like, nope, we're not going to be doing this again. Not with her. She's clearly too small I think she's either too small or I just don't want to go through it. So we're going to get a nice big mare that's got the big mare hips on her that can deliver a baby and has a track record. So that's the plan. So this week we're taking her to the vet and we're going to start the process. They have to flush the mom out for a few days before they have things in order to be able to do the process. But it's a kind of an interesting thing to have horses and have babies. We haven't had babies now on the ground for like 4 years, so I'm ready to have another baby on the ground. They're really fun.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a little bit different than little teeny tiny baby goats. But that was a fun experience for me. It's the first time I've ever been around for a delivery of anything, and it was a lot of fun, but for me, but not for Mom. She was screaming when she first started because that first baby was a big one. That was the big boy.
Oh yeah.
But he came right out into my hands, so that was kind of cool. I was ready to help her because she was struggling so much, but I didn't need to help her. She just did it all. And then it was Arwen, and then it was little teeny tiny Frodo.
That was a cute goat. That was a really cute goat.
Now he's a hideous beast. For a boy, it'll be interesting because I've seen him in his winter coat. And so when he loses his winter coat, he might look a little bit better. You can see his pretty colors and stuff. But
you look like Mountain Man. You got Mountain Man goat.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Oh, that's funny.
Thanks, of course. I don't know why they kept both of them, and they kept them both intact. And they were talking about getting a female, and I said, you can't get a female. Those boys will kill each other. And if you got a whole bunch of females, you might be able to do it, but you'd have to probably either separate them or castrate one of them.
That doesn't.
I think they would fight. I think they've been fighting each other for a year.
At least until the testosterone gets out of their bodies. That's what it's like with stallions. It's like we had one of ours that we had castrated because he was going to be a danger to people. He was a little too high powered. Some stallions are good, and some stallions they're just fighting all the time. So we have 3 stallions. And if we put them in anywhere together, now they get along okay as long as there's a fence between them. Then they're like, hey, bro, what's happening? Hey, bro, what's happening? And it's all good. But you put them next to each other, gloves come off. One would kill the other one just to have breeding rights over whatever walks past them. And with stallions too, you can only let them breed twice a day. That's it, because they will continuously go. And there's horses that they give themselves heart attacks because the owners the owners let them breed so much that their lifespan is fairly short.
Wow.
Sometimes one day is all. There's a real famous stallion that died with the breeding process because they were ended up having a heart attack and dropped right on top of the mare. So you can't allow that to happen because they'll just keep it up all day long, and thus the term stud. So but stallions, I think stallions, they're not like goats. They really are wonderful I think they're wonderful. You just got to know, you just got to be around them, and handle them. You can't let them go feral, or else things don't work out well. Well, Ralph, you shared something this morning on a 3D printer. Let's talk about these 3D pens that you shared.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sounds
Ralph.
good.
We have to go subject here. We'll move on. We like transition.
Yeah, I've never had goats, but I've chased around plenty of chickens. Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day that in the event of kind of a crash or an emergency, I think this is one of those things that would be a real good emergency tool to have on hand. There's so many things in our lives anymore that are made of plastic, and these, although they were originally kind of marketed as like an artistic thing, they work really, really well for repairing things. Basically, what it is it's like the part of a 3D printer that melts the plastic in a pen form factor. So you plug it in, you feed 3D printer plastic in on the back end of it, and push a button in it, and it melts the plastic and squirts it out the nozzle. This came up when I had a plastic part. It was a hook on a home appliance for a cord that broke, and I glued it back together, and then thought, no, you know what? This broke once, and clearly it was not designed to be as strong as it needs to be. I'm going to just add a little bit more plastic to it. So I got the 3D printer pen out, fed some plastic into it, bulked up the original part a little bit, and then thought, well, I do this enough. This is probably something that people don't think about as a repair thing, but these work really, really well for that. And then you can get just rolls of cheap 3D printer plastic, and yeah, like this stuff is great. This is actually made by a company kind of local here in Michigan, and yeah, you just get a roll of that, and I mean, a kilogram of plastic can last you a long, long time. And yeah, basically just use it as a really, really high temperature hot glue gun.
Cool. All those things that we need to have in our toolkits coming into the inevitable crash we're going to have. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid of it though. I'm ready.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Yep.
I'm sick of this whole system of theft of real people, and just going to the Khazarian mafia, or whatever you want to call them, the globalists. It's time to bring this whole thing down. I think God's going to do it. None of us are powerful enough to do it, but I think God himself will bring it down, and
Yep.
then we'll
It's
get
going to
things
be glorious.
It's going to be great.
But yeah, with that, there's different types of plastic you can use with a 3D printing pen. That one that you had pulled up there is a type of plastic called ASA, which is the same kind of plastic that they use for plastic car parts, because it's both strong, flexible, and it's UV resistant. And you can get it in a bunch of different colors there. But there's other types of plastics too, and usually you want to try and kind of match if you can, you want to try and match your plastic that you're using to repair a part to the underlying plastic to make sure that it sticks to it properly. But there's an awful lot of stuff. Just you can generally kind of assume that anything around your house that you interact with is probably going to be made out of a plastic that ASA will stick to. because it's more or less like it's a very similar plastic to ABS. ABS gets used for Legos, for a lot of like cases of things like sometimes power tools will be made out of it. You know, the plastic shells on power tools, just vacuums, knobs on things like a stove or a dishwasher or something like that. A lot of that kind of stuff is made out of ABS. And I mean, if you really want to get detailed on it, you can usually tell by the recycle code on it what type of plastic it actually is. But ASA is usually a pretty good guess that this will be compatible with most stuff.
Maybe we should go through a plastics course here and give everybody a course on plastics, where to find them, how they can be, reused and such, and
Sure.
or what you can do with that. That would be really interesting.
Sure. Well, and the nice thing is that, everybody talks about microplastics, but they don't talk about, how do you prevent that kind of stuff from getting into the environment? Well, don't just continually throw stuff out. Don't let society make plastics so disposable. With something like this, you can repair stuff and keep it out of a landfill instead. So by using more plastic, you may actually be able to prevent plastic contamination of the environment to a certain degree.
Well, it's the plasticizers that are the biggest problem, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a large part of it. Some of it too, you've got additives in certain plastics that can leach out into things. That's one of the big distinctions between like food grade and non-food safe plastics. It's a lot of that is not so much because of the base resin, it's because of the additives in it, like colorants or that kind of thing. The plasticizers, a lot of basically, if you've got a plastic that is flexible, it's generally, I'm speaking in general terms here, but most of the time, if you think of a plastic that's flexible, it's probably something that would be treated by your body as an estrogen if that leached out of the plastic. And
maybe that's where all our men went.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the theories, actually, is there's so much contamination in the environment with various plasticizers. I mean, like, when you see any of the stuff that says BPA free, it really doesn't mean a whole lot anymore, because BPA was studied quite heavily and kind of demonized as being a fairly harmful plasticizer. Kind of. It's kind of more of a precursor to certain plastic chemistries, but it was very much demonized. But a lot of the BPA free stuff, all they did is substituted out BPA for something like BPS or one of the other chemicals that does exactly the same thing as BPA, but hasn't specifically been studied. So they can claim that it's safe because there's no studies that say that it isn't.
Well, there you go. Sounds like a vaccine that we all heard of, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Ooh, I said that right out loud, didn't I?
Yep.
And too bad they lose. They can't censor us, because on BNN we can say whatever we want to say and no censorship.
There you go.
So there you go.
Yeah, like when you're doing food preservation, that's one of the distinctions of like a food grade bucket for something versus just a bucket you pick up at Home Depot. Is a lot of it actually comes down to the colorants that they use in that, and whether they would leach out into food if food is kept in one of those buckets.
How does Mylar fit in with that?
Really, I'm not so sure that Mylar is maybe the best option to have in contact with food. I still tend to think that glass is probably about the best way to store things, glass or metal.
That's where I was going with this, because glass is recyclable and it's clean.
Yep. Glass and metal, great ways to to store things. Like stainless steel, yeah, it's got chromium in it. Yeah, it's got nickel in it. Is it likely to leach out into food? Not very.
Oh,
But
I have a question then. What about hoses? Because, getting ready to do some gardening, and one of the things I never really thought about was what type of hose to use. And they say a special hose that doesn't have the metals in it, it's supposed to be healthier, but does that really make a difference?
I tend to think that so you can get water supply hoses. Typically, they'll be like in an RV section for hooking up an RV to like a hose spigot at a campground for potable water. And you can get hoses that are rated for that don't inherently leach known bad chemicals into the water. Most hoses are not rated for that, and so they'll use like some kind of a rubber or urethane on the inside surface of the hose that might very well be leaching chemicals into the water as it flows through it. Metal versus not metal, I don't think really matters that much because it's going to be the inside surface coating of the hose.
And coatings are a whole nother subject. That's a whole animal of itself.
Yeah, but
Which is really interesting.
If you wanted to find one that's actually certified for potable water, I would say go look toward where you would find hoses for RVs. Most like the big box hardware stores, they'll usually have short ones, so you can see kind of what they look like, but they don't usually have like long garden hose length ones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we should get on the subject of some of this tomorrow too, because when we get on with Dr. Kent with the off the grid first aid and such tomorrow. But I think that all of this stuff is a really great idea, because you go into the camping area, there's all kinds of like camping toilets and such, the composting toilets and such, that if things go down, and let's just say you're preparing for the worst, and then you're happy that it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. Anything up from a flat line of everything is a win-win. But they have those camping toilets that separate out the substances, and urine is actually sterile, and you can use that as a they used to use that, and they pour it on like trees and such as a fertilizer. And that's why a few years ago, when all the urea plants went down, there were a bunch of them around the world that urea production went down, and we really had a problem. You could see that the fertilizers for all the farmers around here, I know a couple of them, that their fertilizer of the synthetic fertilizers like tripled. So a couple of them have actually gone to turkey manure and such. And guess what? Horse manure works great too. And if anybody needs some from their garden around here, give me a call. You know my phone number. And I'm pretty extra sure I can fix you up with organic horse manure. So anyhow, Charlotte has a couple of things here. I hope when President Trump wins, Soros and Bill Gates will end up in jail. Yeah, me too. I would say past jail. That is a light sentence for these people, because they've committed crimes against humanity. That is an outcome that is a final outcome. Anyhow, Charlotte says USDA, FDA, NGOs must go, and CDC corporate socialism clowns. Capitalism must be taken back from these federal Maxim clowns. We, the people, must stand against corruption that has been going on. I agree with that. I'll buy that if made in Michigan, not by a commie Bill Gates or by a big box corporation getting their lamp pot rubbed by the three mishes of Michigan. I think sometimes people talk to text and it comes out kind of funky, but we get the gist of it. And Lev says, my husband has worked around plastics for years, and he has told me the temperature makes a difference in what kind of plastic you will get into. What say you, Ralph?
Yep, that's true. And the one also, that ASA that I think is probably the best general purpose choice for a repair plastic, you do want to use that in a well-ventilated area, because it is somewhat toxic. The fumes from it are somewhat toxic.
And everything's going to kill you. That's everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Everything's going to kill you. It's all in. Are you smart enough to use the product? And if you've done enough research to know what you're getting into.
And I've heard of people actually getting sick from printing with ABS variants in a fully on 3D printers in fully enclosed rooms before. So it is actually a thing. It's one of those things. It's like, is it going to kill you? Very, very, very unlikely. You'd have to, yeah, not with a single roll of filament are you going to have a problem with that likely. But I've gone through a ton of those rolls of filament on my 3D printers, and I'm still here. But you do want to generally, if you're printing with a plastic like that, it's healthier to do it in a well ventilated area. There are other plastics that are a little less like that. Like PLA is one that's a fairly low temperature plastic that gets used for 3D printing a lot. Works wonderful for 3D printers for anything that is going to be in a low temperature environment. So like you wouldn't want to take your prints and put them in a hot car in the middle of summer because they'll probably soften. But PLA can be made from like corn or rice. It's generally considered to be biodegradable. And that one is fairly non-toxic to work with. So it depends on the plastic, but that one is also not quite as useful because it's not going to bond with as many things. If you're using it as a repair material, it's not going to bond with as many other plastic parts well to be able to fix them.
I'm kind of excited about the hemp plastic. I think that's kind of something that needs to be explored because that's stronger than steel. They used it for car bodies at one point in time, and of course, the Rockefellers and the rest of the clowns that are sitting on top had to deep six that so that they could money launder to the corn subsidies and all that sort of thing, and take it out of local growth, because that's what it's all about. They're all trying to centralize the power, centralize the supply chains and such. But I think that's a great way to go, and it should be explored because it requires, when you start doing things the way the world is supposed to work, instead of just absolutely trashing everything the way we've done it in the past decades, it just works better. And God has wonderful options for us to replace what we have now that is in fact destroying the planet, like windmills. Nobody windmills, everybody thinks it's free energy. No, it's not. And it's much more pollutant than the petroleum products. I refuse to call them fossil fuels because they're not.
Definitely kills an awful lot of birds.
Yeah. And then you got a rat problem around in the fields by the windmills because all the raptors can't fly in there and make sure that they're taking the rats and the mice out. So, and then that eats the crops. And so it's just destruction on top of destruction on top of destruction.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the way that solar panels are being deployed right now either, because there's a few different ways of doing solar panels right now. One of them is to do grid-tied solar with net metering, but with no battery backup, where it's just the solar panels backfeeding power into the electrical grid, and you pay less for power. And that can make some economic sense as long as you've got heavy subsidies, which means that it doesn't actually make any economic sense in a legitimate competitive world. And on top of that, if you do that and it doesn't have any batteries to store power, then it's not going to work when the grid goes down. It has to have the grid up to be able to synchronize it, to be able to feed power back. So as soon as the grid goes down, the solar panels shut down. So that's one way to do it. Another way is to do solar panels feeding into and lately it's this one that's gotten quite popular, feeding into a lithium-ion battery bank. And while that's a little bit better, it means that you can run off grid for a little while if the grid goes down. It's still not ideal in my opinion, because you've got the lithium-ion batteries that have a comparatively very short lifespan before they become worthless and have to be replaced. I've I don't know. I think if you paired up solar with a battery charger inverter system that would use nickel iron batteries, like we used to have around 1900, we had electric cars running on rechargeable batteries back around 1900, and they ran on they had nickel iron rechargeable batteries. That I believe some of those were made by Edison, and there's examples of those still around that are still viable batteries and can still be recharged. Most of them at this point are in museums, but they're still perfectly functional. Why aren't we using tech like that?
Yeah, we need to go back to that. Well, guys, you know what? I'm going to move on to my next guys that are on the show, and let's pick this conversation up again tomorrow, because I think that there's all of this sustainability stuff that all of us are into massively that we can talk about and help people feel a little bit less hopeless on things going down. I'm looking forward to it. Time to rip the Band-Aid off and get this thing over with and put it back the way it's supposed to be, and take all the criminals and ship them off somewhere. Let God deal with them, because they they've done the wrong thing, and sometimes do-overs don't happen. But that's just me. So anyhow, thanks for coming on today, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at bright and early, 9:00. You up for it?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
All right. Farmers get up early. All right, guys. So I'm going to go to a quick break, and then I'll bring on John Ferguson and Reagan Box. And welcome back to the second segment here in Brandenburg News Network this morning. John was having just a little bit of trouble connecting, so he's going to connect in a minute, and I'm hoping that Regan pops up. But I'm going to talk here for just a second while we're getting up and running. Regan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I can't see you. All I see is the background.
I'm trying to figure out why it's doing that.
Can you kill the background?
Let's see what's going on.
If you go into settings and take the background out, I think it'll maybe work better.
Is that any better?
Nope, you're still dark. So do you have something in front of your camera? Is there
No, it's all right here.
Okay, well, I tell you what, can you why don't you do this? Let's leave and have you join back in again, okay?
Okay, thank you.
No worries. So this is what it's like, guys. It's real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table. Kind of my little background up here. I think it's kind of funny, but it's the same background that I was using. So we'll wait for John and Regan to get in. I think we had a little bit of technical difficulties, which isn't surprising. John said that his internet was actually out this morning, so he finally got it back, and he's gonna try to join here. Hopefully they'll both be able to get in here fairly easily. Once in a while, this stuff happens when you're live, but I still think it's a better way to do things, because as we'll be talking to Paul Venable later, he got misquoted by Politico after the convention. They said something that wasn't true, and so he called them, and they redacted it and retracted the statements that they said. But when you're live and you have live video and such, you've got a record of what was actually going on at the time. So hopefully the squirrels will connect here, and we'll see what we got. I'm gonna let's see. Let's bring up something. You know what I'm going to bring up while we're waiting for those guys? I think I'm going to bring up Telegram. We'll see what Karen's been posting today. I've been kind of out of it here for a week with all of the stuff going on with the Constitution Party. So let's see what Karen's been posting. She keeps up on it pretty well when we're gone. Oh man, I got 636 posts to catch up with. So let's run right down here to the bottom and see what she's posted today, and we'll just run through her channel a little bit. She always has good stuff. Oh, here's one. National Law Day is celebrated on May 1 in the United States. This is interesting. Okay, so National Law Day is May 1st in the United States. President Dwight D. Eisenhower established Law Day in 1958 to celebrate the rule of law in a free society. Congress officially declared May 1st as the date for in 1961. The day is celebrated throughout the month of May. Let's see what else she has here a minute. Libertarian Party. We sent a letter to the campaigns of both former President Trump and President Biden recently. We're happy to announce that we received this response from President Trump. So, cool. I asked him to send the message up there too for the Constitution Party, but apparently that didn't work out so well. So 169 closures of stores closing. Everything must go express. Says additional 103 store closures planned this year. Outfox Hospitality for 35 closures. Oh, here we go. Bring Karen again. Hey, Karen, thanks for jumping back in.
Yeah. I went to watch you on Rumble, and I was like, she's looking at my channel.
Yeah, I'm looking at your channel. Both Reagan and John, I think, are having a hard time joining, and I don't know why. Let me see what we have here. So I'm going to repost the link and see if they're going to come on here. Sometimes this happens, and there you go. Let's see if they get in this way. You didn't have any problems joining this morning, did you?
No.
No? Okay, well, I guess it's you and I for a bit here. We can even bring Ralph back in if we need to. So, and we'll see what's going on here. Let me you want to talk for a second, and I'm going to give him a call and see if we can get him in here. I don't know what's going on.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say something before. I was thinking when we were talking about fear and how they're trying to spread fear, it reminded me that I heard on the news the other day. I do watch the news because I think it's kind of entertaining, but it's also informative for the narratives that they're putting out. They said that bottlenose dolphins were positive for bird flu. They had died of bird flu. And it's ludicrous to me that they're even testing them for bird flu. I don't know why what the deal is that they were even coming across bottlenose dolphins that had died, what kind of study that might be involved with or whatever, but to put out that we tested them for bird flu and they came up positive. And I just keep remembering how in COVID people were testing. There were nurses that tested blank straws, or sheep or fruit, all kinds of things, and they would say it tested positive. And I wondered why they were even bothering to test cows, because it was a different species. But okay, I guess agriculture, that's the way they do things. But still, bird flu is not something I'm concerned about even for my own chickens. So I'm not really concerned about whether dolphins can get it. And I'm certainly not afraid of people getting bird flu. So don't let them fearmonger everybody. And I think what they're going to have to shut down this election because they can't see Trump being able to win in front of all the people this time. And they're either going to try to say that they've got to have shut down because of a pandemic, which I really don't think they're going to try that hard for, because I think the public is really, really over it and wouldn't even begin to allow it. But the other possibility is that they might extend these quote unquote protests in the colleges and universities across the country and cause the National Guard to come in. This was a theory that I heard through Dave of X22, and it made some sense to me that they might bring in National Guard in order to quiet the protesting. But the National Guard could stay there for a little while longer. And wouldn't that fit into all of our major cities if there is some kind of attack on the election and they were to say, we can't have an election? The military could, one way or another, the military, the National Guard could say, hey, we're here to help. Let's go paper ballots. So who's really in control of all of that? What is the purpose of everything happening? I don't always know. Most of the time we
don't. Good guesses, though. We can
theorize, yeah.
So both John and Reagan are having trouble joining this morning. Reagan needed to reboot her entire computer. And so this is they clearly do not want these people talking because, you know, we can usually keep things up and running. So we're going to try it a different way here and see what happens. But I can't even tell you. I think your computer went down at one point in time, didn't it? And so did Jason Jones. It's like the when he was on
that was a mystery, and from what I had been told, it probably didn't have anything to do with your show. But you just, it was too weird. It wasn't Brandenburg News Network, and it wasn't the show. I was doing some other thing. I think I was maybe working on assembly stuff because I don't really have a purpose to do anything with the computer most of the time nowadays. But the computer shut down. The fan blew like crazy. The fan was like it overheated all of a sudden, and it went on for a long time, and I couldn't get it restarted. And I did eventually get it fixed. I think it's an old computer to begin with, but they couldn't find a cause at the computer shop because I took it in and they couldn't find a cause to it. So it could have been somebody messing around with me. I don't think it was because of assembly work. So if it was an attack, which Jason was claiming was happening to him, I don't think really that it was assembly related. And I don't do your show on the computer. I use my phone. So if my phone goes kaput and you can't reach me, then that's a whole other thing because I use my phone for almost everything. In fact, the computer internet is powered by my phone as a hotspot. So if my phone goes down, I'm might have to get with Ralph and study for that AM radio test.
Yeah, no kidding.
Get that finished.
Yeah, I think we've all been working on alternative ways to connect to everything. We're actually coming along pretty well with our network to replace if there's an EMP that goes off. We're actually making some great progress in being able to keep communications up even if the power goes out. That's becoming a really interesting subject to delve into, quite honestly. So having a lot of fun with that. So somebody popped up and said they want to be an investor in what we're doing. I'm like, going to what? To control it so that we can centralize it so somebody can make a whole ton of money off of it. I kind of think that this just needs to be out there so that it's an uncontrollable source, just like AI. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the AI subject here because AI is right now they're trying to make everybody afraid of AI. I don't think it needs to be afraid of it. It's a tool, right? It's who controls the tool. It's the moderated AI that's the problem. Just like, any other tool that we've been handed to in history, everybody's like, oh, that's voodoo magic. It's going to come to no good, blah, 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 whatever, right? The printing press. Oh, no, all evil is going to come with the printing press. Well, it's in people. It's how we use it. But if we can stop having this global crime syndicate have control of everything, then we've got a chance of having something that's actually a good tool that's put out to all people that they can use instead of have to pay to play on every single level of our government. It's disgusting. So this
I
is
learned
really,
something. Sorry.
this is interesting. Why they're having a hard time joining here today. Same link you guys got, same link as such. So not really sure what's going on here.
And I did it twice. So
yeah, you came on twice, and Ralph came on easily too. So not really sure. So we may have to reschedule them again if they can't get in today. And I can't debug their computers when I'm online here. So I'm not really sure what's happening. We just, okay, God, let them join, please. Help them to join whatever difficulties they're having. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. We'll see if that little quick prayer will net us any help here. Not receiving any emails. So now it's stuck in email. Okay, that's weird. Totally weird. Let's see. Talk amongst yourselves, but I'm still going to try to get them in here.
Well, I wondered how much of the national things going on you were aware of while you guys were away, because I figured you were pretty busy on a daily basis.
Yeah, I was putting in like 14-hour days, and that was 3 of the days were about 14-hour days in meetings. So, and with relatively few breaks. So it was kind of an epically marathon. Let's see. I don't know why it's getting stuck here. Hang on a minute. But so yeah, not at all. Okay, let's try
On the
again.
other hand, I was taking a few days at a time away because I was just doing other things, getting our chicken coop moved and getting ready for gardening and everything else under the sun. Sometimes it's been good to take a break away from the quote unquote news, citizen journalists, or whatever you want to call it, because I don't always watch the evening news for my news either. But it's good to get away and get into nature a little bit more, and then come back and find out what I missed later. It's been kind of a healthier way of doing things for me. So it means that my followers have to catch up a little bit with me too if they want to, and I might post 100 posts real quick within a couple hours. One day, what I do sometimes, I go through all the channels and take some notes, and then I lump all the stories together based on the subject matter, and that makes it easier to look through and see all the types of things, all the posts about a subject together. I kind of like to do that from time to time.
You're awesome, and your summaries of things are really helpful if you just want to scan it, because a lot of times you'll do scans of the show or summaries of the show, so that you can go down, post by post and see what's really, you take the meat out of it, so that it's not such a long listen. Which for me, I think there's some value in doing the long listens, because people can always. So John this is kind of interesting. There's something going on here. The home internet is down again. Can't tether from my phone. Can't get on the net from my phone using Wi-Fi or mobile network. This is strange. So you know what? We're just going to call John. Heck with this. Done with this. We're over this right now, and we'll just bring John on by call and start talking to John. This is great. If you can stay on, that'd be great. Karen. Hey, John, how you doing? Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. We're going to do it by phone call. How's that?
Okay, that will be fine.
Yeah, we can just, we've got about half hour. I'll have you guys back on again. Sometimes you just got to punt. This is a punt situation right now. So I think that there's so many attacks going through the telecom communities that, like, I can keep Brandenburg News Network up here, but that doesn't mean I can keep everybody else's networks or their other tech up when they're remote from us. And once we're online, I have a hard time with that, accessing other people's computers or getting them up and running. But anyhow, welcome to the show today. What are we talking about? I think Reagan had to reboot her computer too. She said it went down, and she said she's going through everything. So for some reason, the two of you just got nuked.
Well, it's Joe Biden. It's suspicious.
Oh, that's funny. Hey, I'm going to bring something up online. You can't see this, but Karen posted this. Can you guess how many new pages of regulations Biden is imposing on coal?
I can't. 4,000 pages.
I don't. What's your answer to that, Karen? That's a Karen post.
I think it's in the comment on the post. If you click on it, I want to say it was like 700 something. That's my guess.
Should have been
I
more.
didn't read the article.
Well, he's done a sucky job trying to compete with a Patriot Act. It's like 2,700. Biden just failed. Big fail. So let's see what we got here. Hang on, and I will, in fact, see if I can find the number here of what he's actually done. I need some Jeopardy music. 681 pages of new coal power regulations, likely to strange. That's weird. Coal focused energy. I think they meant strangle. So let's see if I can bring Regan on. I can't see her video yet.
You still can't see me, but at least you can hear me.
Yeah. Hey Regan, how you doing? So I can't see you. You're invisible today, but I can certainly talk to you,
It
John.
sounds like something's going on with John and I'm not really understanding all this, but hey, we'll get there.
Yeah, both Karen and Ralph were able to join this morning. So we're just going to punt our way through this because that's what we do. They can attack us all they want, but that doesn't mean we're going to go away because we're ornery, pesty little guys, and we just keep coming back. So it's so nice to have you two on the show today, Regan and John. What's happening? What's happening right now? You're in a Senate race, Regan?
I'm running for U.S. Senate in Georgia, and yeah, it's craziness.
And you're horse gal, so that automatically puts you into one of my favorite people categories.
Yes, ma'am. I worked on like 40,000 acre ranches in New Mexico. I'm women's ranch rodeo reserve world champion, and I'm also U.S. cutting horse reserve world champion.
Oh, that's really cool. That's so cool. I have Pasafinos, and so I'm going to bring your website up here. So that's my gig, and horses are fun. You have to be a different kind of a person to be around horses all the time. A little bit of crazy and a little bit of calm. So there's Regan right there. We'll go down your website a little bit so they can see who we're talking to here. Let's talk about what's going on in your Senate race.
Right now, it's just starting point. The race isn't actually till 2026. It's just going out, meeting the people, letting them know what I stand for and who I am. And like I tell them, most of my opponents are going to try to buy your vote, and I'm actually trying to earn your vote. Just let them know who I am, what I stand for.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, John, what's your perspective on this and what's going on out there right now?
Which part? I mean, there's just so much. If there's anything specific, please let me know. But one of the things that I have really been trying to focus on is, that I have issues with some of the nefarious, what we call podcast pirates. They go down to the border and just take videos of children and falsely claim that they're saving children. And I'm kind of on this new kick to where I'm saying we need to stop trying to fund those people. There are a lot of really good organizations out there that are doing a lot of really good, a lot of good in the world. And, we should continue to support those. But, I'm urging people to stop funding those podcast pirates and put their money where it's really going to matter. And that's putting their money into people like Reagan and others that are trying to try to do something and do good in the world and try to win our country back. She's got an uphill battle with fighting all of the tyranny in DC and in all of our states. So money is hard to come by right now. It's a whole lot less valuable than it was. So if you're going to go out and earn hard-earned cash, which is very difficult to do, and you want to contribute to something that actually matters, you need to put your money behind Reagan because she's a pure soul. I've gotten to know her, fairly well, and I believe in her. So, she has my full support, and all of my friends and colleagues are standing behind her to try to get her in this seat, because she will make a difference.
Well, you guys met at a sheriff's meeting, didn't you? Constitutional sheriff's meeting and peacekeepers.
Yes, the CSPOA. That's correct.
CSPOA. So that's kind of cool, because I love everybody that's in that. You know, Kirk is in that, and there's several people that I know that are in that organization. It's a great organization, and stands for a legal, lawful rule of law, not just this goat rodeo nonsense we got going on out there right now. So I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say about the difficulties you have in Georgia, Reagan.
So one of the biggest things, John, talking about money, is you look at what our Governor Brian Kemp has done. If you look at the Georgia First legislation that he's passed, what he's doing is taking all the big name donors away from the Georgia GOP, funneling them into his personal campaign account, and he's already amassed a war chest of $80 to $90 million. And so, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy when you look at it that way. And just getting past the establishment and everything that's there, because I know they're not going to help. It's a crazy dynamic right now. But I think the strength is getting the grassroots behind me and just going out and meeting the everyday working people, because they're realizing these people we've elected, they don't even know what it is to be an everyday hardworking American. They're not in reality. Otherwise, they wouldn't be pushing agendas like electric cars. We wouldn't be dropping about $3 and $4 fuel if we could afford a $60,000 to $80,000 new car. And so they're just, people aren't in reality, and having someone that is down to earth, that knows what they're going through and knows the daily struggles, I think is a big component.
Well, and to your point, most of what we have sitting in the seats right now, the public functionaries, are nothing more than career politicians, and so they're out for themselves and to stay in office and to do those things that they can figure out ways to money launder stuff to them, or the insider trading. I mean, there's so much.
Oh, it's crazy. So one of the things I'm actually running on, being involved with animals and livestock like I tell people our medical and pharmaceutical industries are price gouging us through regulatory capture, and they're making the laws in DC to get it done. So
absolutely.
A human ultrasound machine costs $15,000. I can go to Amazon and buy the same machine with the same specs for animals for $1,600. You tell me why it's nearly $14,000 more, because it says for human use only on it, because they know we'll pay it for our health. A human incubator for newborn babies, $20,000. I can buy the same, or buy a machine that fits a 20-pound dog off of Amazon for $125, and for another $100, I can get the oxygenator and the nebulizer. How many low-income families can give their baby better health at home that they could afford and not have to pay on for the rest of their life? IV in the state of Georgia, on average, it costs $800 if you have to go to the hospital and get an IV. An IV bag costs $6.50. They pay that nurse $40 an hour, so they're making $750 off one IV. I mean,
wow,
it's just insanity.
Criminal. And I think those of us who've been around horses, the ivermectin thing that came out, when ivermectin came out, we already kind of knew this stuff we were a little ahead of the curve on this, that when you can heal an animal up, you pretty much are, I'm going to say it, watch the medical mafia come after me, but you have a decent knowledge of how to help human beings, because quite often the stuff works the same. Not always in the dosage. You got to be really careful with it. But like with ivermectin, that's a chip shot to
well, like my horses being performance horses, I'd keep them on Robaxin, a muscle relaxer. The only difference between what my horse gets and what I get, he takes 10 and I take 1.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, like you said, is just the same. And yet I can get 500 pills of the Robaxin for my horse for like $70. But if I went to the hospital to get it, or doctor, it'd probably cost me $500. They jack it up because it is for people, and they know we'll pay it for our health and whatnot.
And it goes back to that whole fear pushing people into action that's really counterproductive. to what we really should be doing. If fear's pushing you into any reaction, that is always the wrong way to go. I was talking to a friend of mine who just had surgery recently, and he started chemotherapy. And I got to tell you, I've got some real questions about that, and had to face some of this, because they even, you look at how they treat cancer. They don't want to cure cancer. It's a
They're making too much money off of it to cure it.
Exactly.
Way too much money. And like I tell people, we're running our government the same way we're running our medical and pharmaceutical industries. We are covering up symptoms, not finding out the root cause of these issues and problems. And the issue is that they can make money on putting you on medicine that you're on the rest of your life to cover the symptoms instead of curing the root cause.
Or creating more at drug interactions. So you have to have other drugs to cover up the last one that's doing damage, I know my dad went on Lipitor, and there was a couple of them that he went on, and I'm pretty extra sure that he got neuropathy from the drugs that he was taking.
Yeah. I look at some of the symptoms, and they're worse than actually having the problem or issue.
In the United States, when did doctors turn bad? Not all doctors are bad, of course, and doctors they have a wonderful talent. But when did some of these doctors turn bad, where we used to be able to trust a doctor, I don't know, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, but then all of a sudden it all just kind of boils down to the money. When did it go bad, and why did it go bad? Why are we
go back to the Carnegies and Rockefellers, and they were the one that started pushing the medical industry like it is. It was all a money-making scheme by them, just like our Fed and everything else.
Yeah,
but it all goes back to them.
There's an old-time doctor that said, and I can tell you, my husband heard the words from his mouth, was that he was at a conference, and he's no longer alive, but he was at a conference when he was a young doctor, and they were talking about the curing cancer, and they were told, we can't cure them any faster than what we're going, because we'll all be out of job. And this happened when I think it was back in the 40s, when he heard them say that in a conference in Chicago.
Wow.
So they know what they're doing.
We have a doctor that's here in Kansas. His name is Dr. Gene Zaid, and he owns a company called Genzada. And he has cured over 90% of his patients. And the FDA will not allow him to use his drug that he invented. I think it's plant-based, but anyway, the FDA will not allow him to market his drug as a cancer-curing drug. They will only allow him to market it as a supplement. And, those numbers of being able to cure over 90% of his patients, some are just too far gone, right? But to me, that's just absolutely absurd that Americans have to die. I just lost my father a couple of months ago from cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so, well, thank you. And, this is just bullshit that people have to die, whether it's a war or any other issue, medical industry related, whatever. People are dying, and they want people to die, obviously. But people have to die just to put money in people's pockets. That is where America has just gone off the rails and is all wrong. And that's why we need to get people like Reagan in office who can be a part of tearing down the system and hopefully rebuilding a new one, a better one.
Well, that's the thing. Like I told people yesterday, it's all about rattling that cage. And they asked me, how are you going to do that in the Senate? it takes years to build that dynamic and the relationships with those you're working with. And I went, forget what we've done in the past. My idea is I'm the spearhead, use the American people as my army, go in there. I put out a call to action. Everyone starts calling their senators, and they show up and protest. We learned during January 6th, they fear the people the most. We've got to
Absolutely.
start standing up, and they get millions of people showing up in DC protesting everything I tell them to. They're going to start changing because they know they don't have an option. That's how we get the change. I'm just the spearhead.
Well, and I think that's the way that it's supposed to work. You know, people right now are looking for the new savior, and I don't know about you, but we all have. I think everybody in this group has the savior already. His name is Jesus, and you know, it's like when we look at looking at people who fill a position or that step up to run for office as the new savior that are going to fix all our problems, we're screwed up in the head, because it just continues to recycle and regurgitate that nanny system that we've kind of gotten, you know, brainwashed into being complicit and into. You know, we need to stand together. And I'm just going to tell everybody out there, you know, if you're standing with a candidate, you know, with Reagan, or a candidate like, is it Reagan or Reagan?
Reagan. I was named after Ronald Reagan.
There you go. So that's what I was assuming. So at any rate, is to stand with you, and that means, you know, I'm kind of against some of the donation things, because I had my credit card hacked by WinRed. It went through WinRed, and they were taking between $500 and $2,000 and donating it to my personal credit card to campaigns I'd never even heard of before.
So that's why I also have it where people can go through Venmo and PayPal to donate.
Okay, good.
Because I know people just don't like WinRed.
Yeah, they suck. Okay. And so, I mean, that whole thing just completely sucks. I mean, they'd have to improve just to suck. So, but what you really need is you need that army of people that will commit to you and stand with you and move together. It's much more valuable to have somebody that will give their time even than their money. And
it is. Well, like I tell people, you know, let's say I have 10 people in each county, and 10 people is nothing, but they take, you know, they call 10 people a day. At the end of the week, you've reached 700 people. This can multiply really quick, and it's cheap and easy. It doesn't have to be about the money, but this is the problem with the office I'm running for. And this is why we become a fascist oligarch. They're saying I'm going to have to raise $50 million to be a viable candidate. And this is why, you know, it's all about protecting corporations, big tech and big pharma, because they're going to write laws to protect the investors.
That's exactly, it's kind of interesting, because that's exactly the number that I was quoted for running for governor, that we had to have at least $50 million or we would not win. I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay to play. So I'm going to do it the right way. I'm not going to fall in with that kind of nonsense. But I think if you get an army of people, you can whittle that number down substantially.
Yeah. Yeah. Word of mouth is free.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Donna, one of the things that just has to be said is, you know, we're talking about all of this tyranny and all this corruption in our federal and state governments. I mean, all the way from the bottom all the way to the top, right? You know, these people know, and these people, they need to hear this message. We know how you're hiding your money. We know we don't know all of it, but we know enough. We have the evidence. We've put the spider web of corruption, we've put it together, and we're coming for you. You know, we are legally and lawfully, we are going to take you down. You will be in jail. You know, this will happen. So if I were a elected official or a government employee of authority, you know, you need to listen to this message. We are coming for you legally and lawfully, and you will be in jail. It's going to happen. So it would be in your best interest to, you know, stop the corruption, start running this country the way it was meant to be run, and allow people to prosper. Because if not, your expiration date for your freedom is coming to an end very soon.
I love that.
You know, I was reading a quote by Thomas Jefferson the other day, and this is what he was wanting the motto of our country to be. And I think we need to use this as our modern day war cry. But he said, rebellion to tyranny is obedience to God. That hit me so freaking hard when I read that. I was like, it is. That's exactly what Jesus did. He fought all that tyranny, and that's what we're here fighting for today. And it's just standing up for a God honest truth and the laws of God.
Absolutely. And when you look at all of our structures that we were taught to believe in, they've all been infiltrated. You've got, say, the DeVosses up here who have their 12 pastors or so that are running around, trying to sell the prosperity doctrine, claim it, frame it. And, you give this to God, God's going to give this to you. And it's like a contract. And that's a bunch of nonsense right there. That's absolute nonsense. You don't hold God to a contract. You do things for the right reason and because you love God, right? And so I think that a point taken is that those of us who are believers, we have to use discernment, even in those organizations that we've been taught to trust. Do our own homework, get in the Bible, find out what God's saying, really saying, not what somebody's spinning it at us, and make some good choices.
Well, we've got to get down to our principles. Like I tell people, we've elected what I call Benedict Judases. They betrayed both God and country. And they have negotiated on our principles. And when you negotiate on principles, you lose your vision. And that's why we're a country without a vision right now. We need people that will stand up with honor and integrity like our founding fathers did. And I keep harping on them, but it was so pivotal and so amazing what they did. When they signed the Declaration of Independence, they knew they were signing their death warrants. Mm-hmm. We weren't a country yet. All they were willing to fight and die for was an idea. And so if we're not willing to do that, if we're not willing to stand up, we are being complacent.
Absolutely. I noticed that you've got the EPA getting rid of the absurd, nonsensical regulations from the EPA. I think it should be abolished. I think so many of these departments, they just need to be, abolished entirely.
We have over 400 federal agencies right now, and most of them are replicated within our state anyways. So abolish the 400 federal agencies. A, will make our government more accountable. B, will be saving taxpayer money. And it's just ridiculous. There's not supposed to be a law or regulation put on the American people that Congress doesn't vote for, and Congress will not do its job. They're complacent to these three-letter agencies. It's got to stop.
Absolutely. So what else is going on down in the border right now, John? I mean, I've been watching some of the things you're doing. You've got your new coffee company up, which is Patriot Coffee.
Yeah, that's correct. I wasn't able to do this last mission last week, but there were groups of 500 people coming over in this area that we patrol, and I can't say that area over a public forum, but yeah, they were monitoring over 500 people at a whack. So these are people that are in shape. They have a purpose. And I say that, obviously there's men, women, and children, but the overwhelming majority of these people are fighting aged males. And it takes about 4 to 5 days to hike through Mexico to get to this area. And then there's another couple of days that they have to hike to get into the United States once they cross the border. Because where we're at is it's just, an ungodly amount of distance between any kind of civilization. And these church groups and activist groups they're dropping supplies, food and water along these routes to feed the cartels and from bringing people up into the United States illegally, right? So this is a very serious issue. This spigot has been opened, and it's not stopped. And there's one other thing that I want to say to your listeners and to all of America. Like I've mentioned to you before, my old CFO, he always used to say, John, when things are messed up, look in the mirror. I'm actually cleaning that up quite a bit. but it's time for America to look in the mirror. Everyone knew in 2020 that the elections were going to be interfered with, and they let it happen. In 2020 and in 2022, everyone knew the elections were going to be rigged, right? Mm-hmm. They have been rigged for
decades.
Right. Yeah. I didn't want to say decades, but yeah, you said decades, and I agree wholeheartedly with you. So, America needs to look in the mirror. All of these college campuses are protesting, for Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran. How stupid does America have to get? Right? Everybody knew all of this was coming. We talked about it. Everybody stood on stage and talked about it. The podcasters, the news, everybody knew that this was going to happen. And now that it's here, everybody's complaining about it. Well, that's because you didn't get off your ass and go do something about it. So America needs to look in the mirror, right?
Agreed.
So now that this is where we're at, what are we going to do to fix it? Well, obviously, you're going to do what Reagan's doing. You're going to run for office and you're going to take it back. How are we going to do that when the voting system's rigged? Well, you got to volunteer to be a poll watcher. There's multitudes of things that we can do to get our country back. But look at these dumbass kids in these college campuses protesting for freaking terrorists. Come on, United States.
They're doing it under a foreign.
Have to be.
They're doing it under a foreign flag. This isn't invading. This is treason. I can't.
Their right freaking mind would allow a Palestinian flag to be draped over a statue of George Washington. That is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. And you, as America, you need to own up to it because you sit on your butt and didn't do anything. So let's get off your butts. Let's go out there and let's do something. Let's take this country back. Or the other option is you can continue sitting on your ass and let America go away, and then you just get to swallow every pill that the government feeds you. Those are your options. But, people, as I saw on Fox News this morning, they interviewed Levine, and they're like, well, what do we do to fix it? And he's like, well, what do you mean, what do we do to fix it? Well, what you do to fix it is you take all of those protesters, tell them they get a duffel bag and a backpack, and we put them on an airplane, just like we brought people on airplanes here to the United States. We send those people over to that country that they're supporting. And we drop them off and say, good luck. That's how you fix that.
I love it. Give them the pill they want. If they think America's so bad, then maybe you should be shipped out to where you're swearing allegiance. When you're swearing allegiance to Hamas, which was created by our own CIA and Mossad, good luck with that. Good luck with that. I don't think they're going to be negotiating well when you show up, there with your liberal ideas and such. It's not going to work out as well as you think.
Yeah, Donna, for you, Reagan, and your listeners and your supporters, okay, put this in perspective. The government, the Biden administration, calls parents who stick up for their kids, who don't want their kids to be transitioned to transgenderism. Okay, they call those people, and the patriots who love this country, they call those people domestic terrorists. But these college students who are actually supporting terrorists and allowing them to put Palestinian flags over the statues of our forefathers, they support those people. Look, honestly, I don't care. People in Palestine, they don't want this. I know people that are Palestinian. They don't want all of this crap. The Israelis don't want all this crap. This is all an orchestrated deal.
It's a color revolution.
This is something that was put in place. This was planned.
It's a
right?
color,
Like any operation, it was planned.
It's a color revolution. That's what it is. And I think most of these kids that are in college that are there, I don't think they realize how serious this is, because I will also say that I think most of these people are actually funded, just like Burn, Loot, and Murder, BLM, and Pantifa, the nonsense that they have. They're the gutless cowards that they are. I think that they were all funded. And I think that these protests with people having like the Palestinian flag, they're traitors. They are literally waging war on America, on our soil, under a foreign flag. It's unbelievable.
Well, it is. And they even called out this morning that Soros is funding all of this, and Antifa is there. But one of the things that they actually called out that I thought was kind of cool is that, like, look at all those protesters. They're, kids with, different colored hair, and it looks like they fell face first into a tackle box. They've got, shit all over their face, like earrings and weird crap, right? But you don't see hardly any black people there.
Yeah, that was the thing that bothered me about BLM. BLM, Black Lives Matters, right? Turns into Burn, Loot, and Murder. And who did they go after? A lot of the neighborhoods that were, a lot of the minority ethnic neighborhoods. They burned down black businesses and such. And this was absolutely an attack on the ones that they said they were there to protect and stand up for.
Yeah, and my hats off actually to the to the African American community, because they're starting to see through the BS, and they're starting to come out and say no, this ain't right, So, but all of these people are funded by Soros and those of that ilk, and these people, like the liberal media, they're parasites. They're fungus, and if they're going to be treasonous, then they need to be treated like you said, like traitors. That's what they are. If you live in America and you want to destroy this country, well, we've got some special medicine for you. That's how I feel.
Honestly, this isn't any different than what Ronald Reagan was going through in 1966 for his governor's campaign in California. You look at UC Berkeley, and all of them, they were protesting war and women's rights and this, that, and the other. And he had a quote. He said, "All of it began the first time some of you who thought you knew better let young people think that they had the right to choose the laws that they would obey as long as they were doing it in the name of social protest. The law is the law. We follow the law. And without it, our communities are unsafe." We've got to start realizing what we're implementing by trying to allow them to be too individualistic.
That's pick and choose. It's not the blind scales of justice by any means. It has nothing to do with that, because when you watch the protesters that violate the rights of other people by gluing themselves to the road, for gosh sakes, I mean, we can look at that and say, seriously, our nation has become dumbed down to the point of insanity.
But yet they let the left do that. But the right has a peaceful protest, like the truckers in Canada and that went across the United States. And I mean, they're shutting down their vehicles, they're arresting them and everything else. The left can get away with stuff and the conservative right can't. And that's the hard part about it. And it's just, we're going to have to stand up and not worry about the repercussions on our personal lives.
Agreed.
Well, that's the thing is, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Houston on business, and the cartels started sending me text messages, and they started calling me and telling me that they were going to kill every member in my family. And they sent me the addresses. So, I had the police surrounding, my family's house and everything. And the whole thing is that it's to scare you. And it's a money raising tactic for them as well. And the whole idea is that you can't let that stuff scare you into submission. And it's a very real situation. right? So these lawmakers, they get the same thing. They are threatened with their families' lives if they don't do or vote or take action in certain areas, and they succumb to that, right? So that's one of the reasons why our government is so corrupt, is because people are allowed to be pressured like that. We have to fight through that in order to clean up our government. And all of these terrorists that are coming across the border, the law enforcement and agency folks are screaming at the top of their lungs right now, hey, America, you're getting ready to get attacked. It's going to be a multi-stage attack on multiple cities at the same time. And nobody's listening.
Well, there's that sheriff in Ohio. I think he's in Ohio.
Yes.
Yeah, that he stood up. I can't remember his name right off the hand here, but he pretty well laid it out that we are going to have a massive attack from the open borders, and everybody should be getting ready for this, because he was pretty to the point on that.
This is one thing I'm wanting to fight for too, and I tell people,
Mike Lindell, Mark Fincham, General Flynn, and by the way, I've gotten to know General Flynn, fairly well over the past several weeks. I've got to spend a lot of time with him, and I just love and respect him to death, and as well as Mark and Mike Lindell and Tom Holman, and the big guys, right? So these people, and even including myself, are being shredded by the liberal media. And is all we all are trying to do, and yourself, Donna, we are just trying to be good Americans and protect the country and the people, regardless of your race, religion, creed, whatever. When you're here in America, you're all Americans, right? And we're trying to protect our country and the people within our country. And the liberal media is shredding us for just trying to be good people. And I find that unacceptable. And I feel like the liberal media should be held accountable for what they're doing. Like, we spoke at CSPOA, and the liberal media, they shredded me.
Why they shred you? You're a nice guy. That's kind of crazy. You're just a nice guy that makes military drones and goes after bad guys that are trying to invade our country.
Well, that's the thing. I'm just trying to be a good American, and so is Mike Flynn and Mike Lindell and Mark Fincham and all the guys, right? The guys and girls. So everybody's just trying to be good Americans and protect this country, but the liberal media are shredding us because they want the power, they want the money, and they don't care if Americans die. Well, I guarantee you, the action that's getting ready to happen against America is going to be so catastrophic and so cataclysmic that everyone will probably know somebody who got killed on that particular day when it happens. That's how big this event is going to be. And people just think that we're just conspiracy theorists and we're a bunch of bullshit. Well, that's the FBI that's saying that.
Hey, everybody laughed at Noah until it started to rain, and and then they were all panicked. So amazing how that works. So you wanted to comment, Regan?
Yeah, what I was going to say is, one of the things I'm wanting to promote about the border is, yes, we need the wall. That's all well and good. But we're naive to think that that's going to stop what's going to happen at our border. The cartels are making way too much money off human trafficking and drugs. Let's be realistic. What we need to do, our government needs to label the cartel as the terrorists that they are.
Absolutely.
And we use our military and our special ops to go in there and start annihilating them. We go into every single country and we take out Hamas, ISIS, and every other group that have, if you add them all together, they haven't killed and touched American lives like the cartel have. Let's clean out the cartel. Let's get rid of them, because this isn't going to stop. You think about this. If they were willing to dig 35 miles worth of tunnels to get El Chapo out of prison, they're not going to stop at this. we're going to have to start fighting things and grouping people together and cleaning this up. You look at every single border town, and the sheriff has no way of controlling it. He might be a badass sheriff. He might really believe in the Constitution. But when 2/3 of our border towns are run by the cartel, they can't clean it up on their own. This is going to have to take the military.
I believe that to be true, that it's gonna be the military that's gonna have to step in, because this has gotten so far out of hand that and I think that's why a lot of people feel really helpless to fight it, because it's so big. This criminality that's happened through our corporations, through the politicians that are placed. They're not elected, they're selected, and all that. It's so big that and it's so out of hand. I do believe that it's going to be, the military is going to have to step in at some point in time. But with that said, well, guys, thanks for coming on. I would love to have you on again next week, maybe. And I'm going to have my next guest come on right now. Is
Maybe we get cameras at work next week.
Yeah, let's see what happens. If you guys want to come on next week, we'll talk when we're off. It's a pleasure talking to you, Reagan, and always you, John. I mean, I've had some wonderful conversations with you. Always love you to pieces. So let's get another day that we can come back on with and see if we can get the cameras to work. This is kind of wild and weird. I'm seeing Paul Venable back there, and his camera's working. I'm waiting for him to bring it on. Hey, Paul. And so I don't know why it's you guys are special today, but clearly
all those FISA warrants coming out.
Yeah, that's what it is. So anyhow, so go to reaganforgeorgia.com to go help out Reagan and stand behind her. If somebody is willing to step up for office that you know is a good candidate and that you get to know, go talk to her, find out about her, and then be willing to get in the game and help her with whatever it is that you feel is the way you want to go, whether it's some donations or if it's more importantly, your time, and make that commitment. Make a commitment that you're going to be there for her every step of the way, that you're going to do things that she needs to have done, whether it's calling or walking or posting to social media, whatever it is. But she needs you guys. So don't abandon her, because she was willing to step up into a very hostile environment and work for this country. So thanks for coming on, guys.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. John, do you want to have people find you at any of the Patriot Coffee places?
Yeah, they can go to patriotscoffee.com, and all of the money that we generate with Patriots Coffee is funding us to go down to the border and actually make sense and actually do something good. A lot of these people stand up on stage and want to try to take your money to go down to the border and then lie about what they do. We don't ask for donations. We want you to buy our coffee. That's fresh roasted coffee. You get something, and then we all know that you're doing something to contribute for the greater good. So patriotscoffee.com. We'd love to have you try our coffee.
That's awesome. I know General Flynn is got his own little brand there with you too, which I think is kind of cool. So, you're actually helping people out. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for coming on today, and we will talk to you next week. Hopefully, that would be awesome. So in the meantime, I'm going to take just a real quick break here. Karen, if I'm not back in time, can you start talking, and then we'll bring Paul right on after that. So thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
So, Paul, you too. Paul Venable will be right on, and so I'll be right back after a short break. Welcome to the third segment of Brandenburg News Network today. I am Donna Brandenburg, and I'm going to bring in my next guest and friend that I admire tremendously. How you doing, Paul?
I'm great. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Fantastic. Yeah, my other two guests were having problems getting on this morning, so I got to feel like it's some sort of hit job on them with connectivity, because I can tell you what, Karen and Ralph both got on, and you got on fine. So I gotta believe that there's a problem. There, but I don't exactly know what it was. But we sure tried to get them to join. So we had to do some creative things today. So
okay. Well, I hope you can bear with me today. I have my headset for some reason isn't working with StreamYard, and so I had to go away from my original venue because that was in the house, and so I'm not disturbing the family, and they're not disturbing me. So I'm just outside my yard.
It's beautiful out there. It looks great.
It is. And in addition to that, I also am not too far from Whiteman Air Force Base, and the jet just flew over. So if that happens,
cheer.
We'll just pause.
Yeah. And we'll all cheer. So I'm like aircraft obsessed, totally obsessed by aircraft.
I am too. In fact, I think I've dreamed of flying since I was as early as I can remember. I love to fly. I love to travel. And I'm fascinated by things that fly, whether it's airplanes or frisbees. Okay, I just love things that fly.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
very cool. Well, I wanted to tell everybody right now that we showed up at the National Constitution Party convention.
Okay.
And I was telling everybody. So I started working on Paul from about the moment he walked in and said, "I'm going to nominate you for presidential candidate." Because first of all, I know Paul. I've heard Paul speak. Paul is one of the most inspiring speakers you will ever listen to in your life. You've wrapped it into not only your life and what things meant to you as you grew up, and the beautiful way that your father raised you as a little micro patriot when you were little, to becoming the man you are today. And I got to tell you, I have so much respect for you, and I've learned a lot from you. And you would be, I think we had a couple of really good candidates, and that really sifted out. But I was really glad that you agreed, like a half hour before the paperwork was done. And I know that you've been asked questions that why did you agree to run for president at the last hour? And I know why you're doing it. I know why Randall Terry is running. He's going to use his influence to drive the narrative a little bit on and making people have to face hard truths. Now, in his own words, he said, it's unlikely that he will win, but he is going to absolutely bring the hard facts of what Biden has done to this nation to light, where it's going to be in people's faces of what has happened with these Marxist infiltrators, this global crime syndicate that has infiltrated our nation. But you had a unique position too. So sometimes we win by losing, and that's an okay thing to do for the nation.
Okay, well, Donna, let me start.
I'm a pest, aren't I? I'm a pest when I have a goal.
Let me start by sharing this before we get into what I did. Let me share with you that, love him or hate him, Randall Terry's got a message for America.
Yes, he does.
And here's, if I can distill it to two things: judgment is coming to America for the shedding of innocent blood. Okay. Now, whether we like it or not, whether we're comfortable with it or not, that message needs to be heard, because it hasn't been in the mainstream. It's so uncomfortable, people put it under the rug. Randall is not going to put it under the rug. It's going to be in your face. And it's the timing. It's time in America for people to wake up to the fact that, and I mentioned this, when I was speaking as a candidate, that we are fighting an enemy that gets power and gain from the shedding of blood. And it's bloodshed everywhere. But the innocents, the blood of the innocents, cries unto God for vengeance. And that message needs to be told. And it hasn't been as out there it hasn't been as loud and clear as it needs to be. And today's today. Today is just the day for a message like that. And I think there are people who know me who won't even like the fact that I've said this, but today's the day.
I agree with you, and it's we've been fighting the issue of abortion for so long. They don't want this to end because the people in power do not want to solve cancer. They do not want to solve abortion. They do not want to solve human trafficking. They do not want to solve live organ transplants or all of these things that are tied into their Luciferian agenda, which comes down to the victimization and the murder of human beings.
Well, it's not just that they don't want to resolve it; they're profiting from it. They can't stop. Okay, that's the problem. If this is something that you do, then to justify your existence, then you will not stop. There is no reconciliation between people who think like that and the rest of us, and so that's a concern. I heard some of your guests in your previous segment, and one of the concerns I have is what Randall is expressing. Judgment's coming to America, and it's going to take. This thing is so big and so pervasive. It's without question going to take God to clean it up.
I agree with you.
Okay, so but let's get back to the convention for a minute. Because from the moment,
lot of fun. It's fun when we're hanging out there. It's a lot of fun, and you have very educated people there who understand what they're standing for, and
right.
And there's pretty much no deviation. When Daryl Castle stood up and told everybody in that convention that if a rule change happened, every single state should walk out. I love Daryl. Daryl's cool.
Daryl is a straight shooter and always has been, and you can't get into a group of people that large without having some disagreements.
True.
And sometimes even a little intrigue. And what happened is a lot of us didn't realize what was happening. When Daryl spoke up, it's like everybody woke up.
There was clarity, and it was to the point and clear. Mr. Castle is to the point and clear and brutally honest on how things are to be run. I love that guy. He's amazing, and his wife is just a precious. She's just a doll. I love his wife.
Yeah, there's definitely some clarity over that, and thank goodness he spoke up, because a lot of us who didn't know that there was something going on were awakened and were able to address it. And it will still need to be addressed as we go up to the next convention. But there are a group of us that are working together to make sure that that gets taken care of.
I have complete faith that there's enough of us bullheaded people that believe that everyone should be represented and not based on a pay-to-play situation or whatever we want to call it. I mean, we can go in lots of different directions, that we are going to absolutely defend the rights of all others. And like I said, in my speech, it's like, if you've been given a lot in life, you have a responsibility to help to manage that well, and to try to include as many people as you is absolutely able. You don't try to use it as a barrier for entry. You do it to bring people along.
Right. Okay, hang on a minute. I'm going to take this thing off. Okay. Well, the other thing I'd like to get to is, one, it was so great to see you when we got there. And from the moment I walked in the door, you started bugging me about, about running for president. It wasn't my original intention. I appreciate that you're not the only person that has that sentiment. But as the days were on, let me tell you what was going on in my mind as when I came to you, like you said, half hour before the deadline. And let me
better late than never,
Yeah. And let me share something else with you. I felt that there were some things that needed to be said that wouldn't be. And because of that, the only way to get that message, frankly, was to be a candidate, because you get a few minutes to speak. And so The particular message that was important to me was why, I'm going to move in a minute just so I can get some sunlight. Are you seeing me okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, great. The particular message, and I shared this with you, is why is it that the big box parties aren't effective? Well, because they're not supposed to be. They're working as they're designed. But part of the problem with them working as they're designed is that we, the Constitution Party, are mimicking the big box parties.
Trying to.
Right, we're trying to. We're competing in primaries. We're trying to do the same things they do, and we need to be careful that we don't forget how the Electoral College works, because we're quickly getting away from it. So this is a message I want to share. I want to put a bug in the ear of our delegates at the convention, because we need to consider going into the next convention and going over the next few years is, how do we want to present the party and present to the nation the constitutional way to do anything? So for example, there were fights this year over whether or not, states were allowed to put Trump's name on the ballot. Remember?
Yeah.
But it's the wrong fight. No president's name is actually supposed to be on the ballot. We even the Electoral College now we're doing is, I don't know if you can hear that, but apparently my chickens are announcing that they're laying eggs.
Hey, chickens are cool. We had Karen chasing chickens around earlier, so we're good.
Yeah, okay. So what happens is, for up through the 1850s, the focus in elections was the Electoral College. And actually the way it works, in each congressional district, the people vote for an elector. It's actually mentioned in the first clause of the Constitution along with representation. So what happens is your elector's name vote on the ballot, and that elector is the one who supports your candidate. Now, I know this sounds academic. Why are we addressing it, this way? Well, if we don't address it at all, we'll never get to the right place. So instead of fighting to have your candidate's name on the ballot, what the founders did with the Electoral College is they made all politics local. That means your local representative to the Electoral College was the person who would represent you as your choice for president. So the electors would be the campaigners. In my congressional district, the elector would be the campaigner for president. And that way, it enforces a representative government. Now we are in a position where we've been away from it so long, the people don't understand how it works. And there's this movement called National Popular Vote, which, by the way, isn't even constitutional, because the Constitution does not allow for states to make compacts like they're doing with this movement. And so, that may have been I didn't say all that, but I wanted to share this message. I wanted to put a bug in the ear of the convention that we need to start not copying the two-party monopoly, but we need to find a way to stand out and promote the Constitution. So what happened is, your prodding inspired me to say, okay, I can share that message I can share that message this way. And I appreciate that. As you know, I wasn't seeking the position. And
which is why you could that any candidate really seeking it should be suspect and or disqualified, in my opinion. But that's not the way it works right now. And I really do like Randall Terry a lot, and Pastor Broden. So that's good. We have outstanding people.
And I appreciate them. So let me back up for a minute. Randall's got a track record of standing for life his entire life, and so it's not like he's seeking the position for himself. He has sought the position to
have a voice,
to have a voice, and in a sense to give a platform for the cause of life, because as you say, as we've observed, it's being swept under the rug. If we don't pay it, picture this. Now they say I did some research when I did my own campaign for Senate a couple of years ago, and in 50 years we had slaughtered 73 million babies. I added up all of the genocides that took place from the mid 1750s, and abortion topped them all, every one of them. And so what happened is we don't see it because it doesn't look like a conventional war. It's an unconventional war. And what's worse, Donna, is that what happens is those 73, you know what that was? That was about 50 years ago. Not only were those babies killed, they would be old enough to be having grandchildren today. Imagine that. Not only are they gone, but they're being replaced by invaders at our southern and possibly even our northern borders. So we don't have the population that we could have to do all the work we need to do. And so when hang on, I need to straighten here. So when we speak, so we talk about someone seeking a position, I can tell you with some confidence that Randall wasn't seeking the position for his own aggrandizement. Okay, he just wasn't.
I agree with that. He's a very nice person, and he's truly fighting for others.
Sure. And so and I was I've been criticized for even accepting, but I wasn't seeking the position. There would have been no one more uncomfortable than me if I were driving with the nomination for president. But I didn't anticipate, that I would get it. I just wanted to share a message, and the message that you're familiar with, full compliance to the Constitution, and this message in particular, that we the people need to stop outsourcing our liberty and take the responsibility for what the people do. Jefferson and Madison, they expected the people to stand up for the Constitution, not for us to just vote, a couple times every year and then go about our business and forget, that the wheels of government grind 24/7, 365, and they'll grind us up if we don't control it.
Right. And, it should be, honestly, I believe that it should be like treated as a part-time job for everyone. People should take this very seriously and put their time into the communities, to connecting people together, and to actually being in a position to talk to our public functionaries and being involved in the process, not just like show up once a year and vote for a name because who knows why. This candidate's a female, this one's male, this one's Hispanic, this one's black, which you know how I am. I completely disregard any of the racial crap that's going on right now, because we're all brothers and sisters, that children of God. It doesn't matter if you got a good tan or a lousy one. It's like we all stand together, and it's a battle right now between good and evil, but people are people.
Right. And in fact, if you remember, what's his last name? I'm too young to have senior moments. I'm having one right now. If you remember Marshall Wilson's presentation, what he pointed out.
He's another great candidate from West Virginia.
Running for governor of West Virginia. What he pointed. Hang on a minute. Can you just
a text that came in or something?
I'm go off. Let me bear with me. Let me put on my do not disturb, because I don't want someone to comment. Okay, there we go. What he pointed out in his presentation is that humans are evil. Okay, they're fallen. They're not angels. The founder said if men were angels, we wouldn't need government. But people need government so to put a check on the failures of people. The founders understood that the founders understood the weaknesses of human nature. And so we need to be able to have government to check one another because we're human and we do what humans do. And we typically seek our own interest. And sometimes when it goes overboard into damaging the interests or the rights of someone else, then the rest of us need to bring that to check. So that's the clarity here. We need government because humans are human.
I would really, I'm going to start bugging you again. I'm going to bug you. Okay.
About what?
Here it comes. So, because I'm going to nominate you next presidential convention. I'm going to nominate you for that again because I want you to have a stage there. So you got to get your mindset that Brandenburg is going to absolutely nominate you again next time. But up and beyond that, I would love you to come on Brandenburg News Network, even if you would do it like once a week or every couple of weeks, because just so everybody knows, I'm vice chair of the Constitution Party in Michigan, which is a U.S. taxpayers party. And Paul is our chairman of our Midwest area, correct? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so Paul and all of the chairmen and vice chairs work together for our region. And I really want to start some sort of competition between the regions. I think we should do this to build the parties. And we ended up having, I'm not a fan of the party system. I'm going to say that right now, but it is the only tool we have to, well, it's not the only one, but it's one of the tools that we have to fight against the tyranny that we're facing right now. And that's why we're all here. We don't believe in the party system, but we're in the party system, in fact, to probably abolish the party system, but it's one of the tools that we use. So I think we should have a friendly competition between the areas and determine what we're going to do. But I'd like you to come on and teach principles of the Constitution on BNN on a regular basis. I think you're outstanding.
Yeah, thank you. Can I add something else?
Sure, always.
George Washington was not a fan of the party system either. And in his farewell address, he warned about the dangers of faction. He was speaking specifically about political peace. But there's something that I think we're missing, and that I want to share too for a minute. And let me give you an example. Part of what has given the Constitution Party trouble in this two-party system is that the two-party monopoly has ingratiated itself into state code, not federal code. There really is no place in the Constitution for parties. But in doing so, let me give an example. It limits the ability of other parties to operate. So, for example, in Missouri, I have to get a person running for office must run for a statewide office and get 2% of the vote to maintain ballot access. Now, while that may be understandable, what that does is it focuses us on higher races. And what I think we haven't done as well is focus on lower races. Let me tell you why, because oftentimes they're not partisan. Okay, even if you don't have ballot access, run for a local position. Okay, we have a person here we have a person in Missouri who's on a water board. Okay, let me ask you, how many local candidates do you have? Excuse me, how many local elected officers do you have in Michigan? I know you have one. Okay.
We have several.
Right? You have several. That's good. Okay. You got several in Michigan. There are several in Utah. But the reason I bring it up is we had an embarrassing example just this spring. We had a member run for a local council. And what's important is only 5% of the people showed up to vote. Okay. And there were 3 people running for 2 positions. The top vote getter got, get this, drum roll, 19 votes. The second runner-up got 15 votes.
Oh my goodness.
Our candidate got 13 votes. Okay. Now, and here's the embarrassing part. Election day, we have local elections in spring. Election day, he was running for a small council. He worked all day long from the moment he got up to the moment, he got home. His wife called him, when dinner was ready, and they woke up in the morning and realized, oh no, if they'd have gone to the polls, they'd have tied for second place.
Oh my goodness.
You understand? So we need to understand, and it wasn't a partisan election. So let's focus on building our bench at the local level. If there's anything else I could say today, that would be the important one. The focus on building our bench at the local level, because from the local level, then come your legislators, your county commissioners, those people that make policy at the local level. All government is local. The founders understood that and set it up that way. And I believe that if we focus on that, especially in nonpartisan races, by the time it's time for us to do the big ones, okay, we'll be ready, we'll be educated, and we'll be experienced. So that's what I also wanted to share.
Well, and it's a good thing to run over. I'm going to see. Let's see if we've got any other messages from the chats. Most of it's gone back to the cartel stuff that we talked about previously with John. But I think that the study of our nation, the founding documents, how things are supposed to, has been so wiped out of our school systems and such. Mm-hmm. I have a friend who is a teacher, and she's older, and she started semi-retiring. She went back into the classroom and couldn't believe what the new teachers were teaching on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And it's so, this is something that we all have to take seriously. And if we didn't get the education, we need to educate ourselves and be around people who actually do understand them and put the time in that's required to be equipped to change things and have a lawfully acting government.
One of the things that I did, and I mentioned this, this was one of the other things that I mentioned in my speech as a candidate. Thank you, Donna. One of the other things that I mentioned is that the most effective thing I did that I've ever done was teach the Constitution. And so I have students from my early classes in Idaho who are still fighting for liberty from the knowledge they gained from that class. Now, I lament that I haven't emphasized it as much. If there was something that I lament being here in Missouri, I haven't emphasized it as heavily as I did when I was in Idaho. And with the new generation we have in our party leadership, and with changes that we're having here, I'm going to focus more on that, because once people know, then they take action. And I don't know if you've seen it. There is something I've shared with the Midwestern states, and especially in our state. It's a document called, Every County, Every Precinct, Every Voter. And the idea is to drill down to the local level and to begin teaching the Constitution, promoting local governance, and then taking action. And so that's, if there's anything, I can't tell you that there was anything more important than I did than teach the Constitution. And I took a class, and I was so impressed with it, I just started teaching it. There are 2 or 3 that are pretty popular, and we have them. I've got links to them, which I share in this document.
Well, that's cool. Is there a way I can find it online so that everybody can see it also?
I will. You mean the classes?
Yeah, and the document and the classes and such that they could access.
Yeah,
or you want to do it on BNN. I mean, we can do it on BNN and teach it here.
So let me share with you. I can share with you the classes, but Donna, the document, I'd like for it to be internal, because it's a specific plan for the Constitution Party. Other people may have it, but the way I've drilled it down, I would like for the party itself to focus it. And so what we've done, we're in the Midwest area. We had that meeting. I sent a notification to the state leaders, and I want to invite them to invite their executive officers. And you'll be seeing that document, but I'll send it to you. Okay. And in fact, I am, please look it over, critique it, improve it. One person can't do everything, and if you've got experience that will help it, then I really ask you to take a look. But essentially, it emphasizes three things: educate yourself, educate your neighbors, and take action. And so, and act on what you know. And it's designed to be a simple plan and to drill down to the grassroots. So I will send that to you directly, and you can take the links from that for those Constitution classes. There are actually 3 that I recommend. And one of those, the one I was teaching, was called Institute in the Constitution with John Eidsmoe. And the original class taught the biblical foundations of the Constitution. And it was, what made it work well is that we taught it in people's living rooms, and that eyeball to eyeball contact, that was just the greatest experience when you're in front of somebody and you're talking and you're teaching one another. So what we would do is we'd watch a video, and then there were questions and answers that follow the videos. In the first class I taught, there were nights, we taught this over 12 weeks in the summer, where the class would start at 7, and then we're out on this family's lawn at 11 p.m. Okay, couldn't get enough of the discussion of this. That's just how exciting this was. And so what happens is, when you get people eyeball to eyeball, and you're together, you build a camaraderie, and there's nothing that strengthens like that. I haven't done that as effectively as I needed to do that in Missouri, and we're going to do that regardless of what my position is.
I love that. Well, do you have any last words for today? I'm really thankful that you came on today. We're going to finish it up with a prayer and then go on to our days. And maybe next time, I'd like you to come on a regular basis. So I'm going to bug you. Here comes Donna bugging Paul again.
Okay. Well, yes. Here's what I do have: a few last words, and it goes something like this: we've got a republic to save, and we need every American to dare to be American, to stand up for for the Constitution. It's been beaten, it's been challenged, it's being attacked, and it's still even as broken and even in this broken and beat down condition, it is still the one thing that stands in the way of complete tyranny in America. It's time for Americans to awaken, and it's time for us to stand up and defend and support the Constitution. The oath that our public officials take requires it, but believe it or not, we don't take an oath, but that oath is implied upon us at birth. And so let's save our birthright. We have a republic to save. Thank you, Donna. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Let's say a prayer here a minute. Do you want to pray, or do you want me to pray?
Will you do that for us this time?
I will. And then
Okay.
That sounds great. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for Ralph and Karen and John and Reagan and Paul and everyone who has jumped in to save this nation with their time, their treasure, and their sacred honor. And we're just so thankful for every single person out there that, and we ask that you would inspire people to step forward and serve your world. This is your world, your sandbox, and you get to make the rules, and help us to follow you. You gave us a great example, so many great examples. But if we don't even have an example, we can choose to be one in a world that's lost. So help us to listen to you in whatever it is, whatever path you take us on, to follow you no matter where it leads, without concern for how it ends up, because that's all in your hands, and be unwavering in our resolve, our commitment, and our toughness, which which truly comes from your hand. All of our strength, our words, our past, everything comes from you, and we thank you for that. Thank you for this beautiful day ahead of us. Let everyone know that they're loved, that you're standing with them, that you know everything about them. They can't hide anything from you, so they might as well turn to you and say, okay, I'm a mess. Help me out of this. We're human beings and we're fallen, and the only way that we get out of that is by turning to you and the salvation in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Thank you so much for this day. We are a great friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you, and we love you. In Jesus Christ's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen and amen. Thank you, Donna. Have a great day and look forward to being bugged some more.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to make it my next life's mission to bug you, to be on here, to teach the Constitution. And
Okay.
no, it's really fun when you stand together as friends. You know, we know each other's families, and you
Right.
stand together as friends, as brothers and sisters in Christ.
Mhm.
There's a connection there that is hard to describe, because you know, you can walk away from somebody, you come right back into seeing them the next time, and it's just like it's an old friend, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And
It
I'm
is.
always thankful to you and Ralph and Karen and John. And I meeting Reagan today was she's a new friend, but
Okay.
John's an old friend and Reagan's a new friend, and it's just really wonderful because we all have so much in common. Our commonality is to do the right thing, no matter if the whole world goes to hell. We're going to stand and do the right thing under all circumstances, not worrying about how this is going to turn out for us, because we know that God will use whatever we do to meet his ends and his will be done. And I think it's beautiful. So Karen, do you have any last words you want to say? You've been sitting back there quietly, and I'm very grateful that you jumped on with all of our technical difficulties we had earlier.
Oh, you're always welcome. I think that the whole show, I kept thinking local action equals national impact.
It's General Flynn.
And that is what all of this is about. I mean, in like Paul was saying, we tend to focus on the bigger things, on the larger scale things, like we talk about president more than we do the township board. But the township board is where things are starting to happen, and the county boards, school boards, these local levels is where a small number of people that get together and learn their constitutional rights and learn what the 3-letter agencies are about, learn how to do things the way they're supposed to be done, can lift their voices and make that happen. It's not easy, but the more people get together to do it, we can learn together and get it accomplished. It is happening. I see it a lot now, increasing numbers that people are making headway. And it's a hard road to hoe simply because we haven't practiced it in centuries. But we've got to get out there and get it done. And we all have a different role to play. Not everybody can be bothered by Donna and jump in and say, I'll run. Okay, I know how that works. But everybody can help in some way or another. And so he's found multiple ways to do so. And of course, we give all the glory to God and try our best to have faith in him no matter how things are going. And that removes the fear because they don't want us to not only know what to do together, but to feel like we can. We absolutely can.
Yeah. Oh, this is kind of cool. I gotta look something up here. Being aircraft obsessed, I just heard something fly over here, and I got to see what it is. Do you do this? Do you guys do this? And not to derail this, but it sounded like, oh yeah, it's a helicopter. So LAD helicopter.
Yeah, I'm aircraft obsessed, and so do you fly, Donna?
Yeah, I've taken lessons. Yeah. So
Okay.
I didn't finish my license because when I ran for governor, I thought it was too risky for me to be up in the air, because we know that 7 out of 8 crashes are to execute somebody. They're assassinations.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's so I just decided to make it easy on everybody that was looking out for me, and not put myself into other risks. So
Sure.
Nils McMountain said, said they aren't kids, they're adults. We were talking about the kids that are protesting. Calling them kids is just trying to discredit them. No one listens to this. You guys are good at losing. Have a great day. You wage war on America. Everybody will remember that. No, we wage war for America. And I think that should be a clarification there, Nels, that you're not quite understanding what's happening here. But that's okay. We'll wait till you catch up a little bit. So everybody have a wonderful day today. Go to brandenburgforgovernor.com because I am the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States. And I would take Donald Trump, President of the United States, the rightful President of the United States, Donald Trump. I would take him on into discussion with us because I'd love to do that. But at any rate, we love you guys. We're fighting for you. God bless you. God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love. And God bless America. Make it a great day. It's a choice.
Thank you for having me, Donna. Take care.
Thank you guys both. I really respect and love both of you a lot. So thank you. Have a great day.